Philadelphia Eagles running back Saquon Barkley. Can he achieve an 1,800 plus yards from scrimmage season? I want to be direct about what I'm saying here, guys. I'm saying yards from scrimmage and not all-purpose yards, because yards from scrimmage is just your total rushing yards and your receiving yards, while your all-purpose yards also include your return yards. This is a very popular talking point this offseason. David with the Twitter handle PHL Eagle News is the first person that I personally saw raise this question back on April 16th of 2024 when he tweeted out, "New Eagles running back Saquon Barkley at OTAs. Do you think he will have an 1,800 or more all-purpose yards season?" I've already started the process of redefining this question by moving it away from all-purpose yards and into net yards in terms of yards from scrimmage. And the reason I'm doing that, guys, is because I don't anticipate Saquon Barkley having an impact in terms of punt return and kick return, but obviously we can redefine this situation if that were to occur. But once again, let me redefine the question just a little more clearer, just so we have a little bit more continuity to what we're talking about here. Can Saquon Barkley become the centerpiece of this offense? And can Saquon Barkley move into MVP considerations? Let me be very clear about what I'm saying here, guys. 95 to 99% of these awards go to quarterbacks. I'm not saying win the MVP. I'm asking you, can he get votes? Will he have a productive enough season to get votes? Because if we're projecting 1,800 or more scrimmage yards, we're talking about a guy that is going to get that type of consideration on the season. That's what we're really talking about here, guys. We're talking about, can Saquon Barkley be the centerpiece of our offense? And is this young man going to enter the discussion of being an MVP candidate? Well, in order to answer that question, guys, I think we need to go over the Philadelphia Eagles' history of 1,800 yards from scrimmage backs. And we need to talk about the advanced analytics behind their play on the seasons in which they, encompassed or achieved those 1,800 total yards of offense. So, like Saquon Barkley being sent out on an out motion, let's go ahead and let's audible this discussion into today's topic. Since 1940, 4 separate running backs over the course of 6 separate seasons have accomplished 1,800 or more yards from scrimmage on an NFL season. Those running backs are Wilbert Montgomery, Ricky Watters, Brian Westbrook, and LeSean McCoy, with 2 of these guys achieving this twice, being Wilbert Montgomery in 79 and 81, and Brian Westbrook in back-to-back seasons in 2006 and 2007. Ricky Watters' season coming in 1996, and the last time that a Philadelphia Eagles running back achieved this type of accomplishment was LeSean McCoy in 2013, which was a tremendously crazy season for a running back, and something that I have a hard time believing will be duplicated in the modern NFL, because LeSean McCoy had over 2,100 net yards from scrimmage, guys. That's insane. That's an insane figure. I think the first thing we have to do here is define the touches. How many times does this player have to have the ball in their hands between rushing and receiving, whether that be actually physically catching the ball, or if you want to do this by targets, I'm doing it by physically catching the football plus their rushing attempts, guys. How many times must this player have the ball in their hands in order to accomplish that? Okay. On the short end of the spectrum, we have Brian Westbrook achieving this in 317 total touches. Okay, and the crazy long aspect of beating a player into the ground, beating them into the dirt, you have Ricky Watters, 404 touches. So, roughly speaking, you're saying anywhere between, let's just round it up to 320, between 320 and 400 touches is the type of production you're going to need for a running back to achieve this type of figure. So I think that's the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, do we truly believe that inside of this modern NFL, inside this modern concept, inside of Kellen Moore's system, how comfortable are you projecting that Saquon Barkley is going to touch the ball between 320 times and 400 times? Because that's the raw data behind the numbers, guys. Mind you, I'm not saying that this can or cannot be achieved. I think if you want my true input on this, tell me how defenses are playing us, right? I think that's how it's going to go. We know there's 4 cornerstones to the offense. Obviously, we're not including Jalen Hurts. He's the distributor. He's the point guard, the thing that some of our Eagle commentary people don't like to hear said. But that's what he is, right? This is basketball on grass is the name of the system we're running. So when I look at the four cornerstones, I mean, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley. You tell me how defenses are playing us, and I'll tell you who's probably going to be spotlighted on the season, and probably from a game-per-game basis. I think each team probably has strengths to which they can take away certain things easily compared to other teams, and I think other teams have weaknesses to where they may struggle to take an aspect away. So that's kind of the thing here when you're talking about achieving that. I don't have the answer to that, guys, but I do know that the raw data is he must touch the ball somewhere around 320 times to about 400 times on the high end in order to get an 1,800-plus yard from scrimmage season. That's the type of production he's going to need inside of the offense, guys, in terms of opportunities, if you will. That's how many opportunities it would take. Raw output and production, right? The raw figures, the raw numbers, like what does it look like from player to player, who shined in terms of the receiving game, who shined in terms of the running game, how do these guys kind of work themselves out in terms of figuring out from a yards perspective. Man, back in 2013, what LeSean McCoy did on the ground with over 1,600 rushing yards. Yeah, I mean, if Saquon's hitting 1,600 rushing yards, I think he's got a really good shot at finding a way of picking up an extra 200 yards in the receiving game. Probably a pretty easy number to figure out here, guys. I don't think it would take that much to put that one together, if you will. Hard to predict he's going to do that, guys. And to be honest, I mean, what LeSean McCoy did off of 366 touches. It's over 350. It's a high number. Boy, he was productive, man. He was so good on that season, guys. I don't know that I can confidently project that'll happen again. But outside of that, you got to go all the way back to the 1979 season and Wilbert Montgomery's 1,500 rushing yards. You get over 1,500 rushing yards, guys. I think the chances of you getting over 1,800 scrimmage yards are quite high. I think that's a no-brainer. Like, yeah, this is whether he achieves 1,800 yards or not. I mean, it's very likely he's going to. But simply put, I mean, it's a spectacular season. It's over 1,500. Scrimmage yards to begin with, which is already, to me, is a starting point of saying great season from a running back. However, you got those 2006 and 2007 years to where you have Brian Westbrook getting over 1,200 rushing yards in each season, but also adding in almost 700 receiving yards on both seasons. I think one year he had 699. I think I'm going to give him the extra yard there, guys. So, I mean, when you look at this, you can see that it's about the equation. Like, how do you present the equation? For me, I think I'm asking the question is can he get 1,400 rushing yards and 400 receiving yards? If you can get 1,400 rushing yards and 400 receiving yards, he's got 1,800 yards from scrimmage. He's achieved what we're all talking about here. That's what you're talking about, guys, to be quite honest. Now, can it be 1,350 and 450? Yeah. Can it be 1,500 and 300? Yeah. I mean, you just kind of work the numbers around to what you believe, guys, basically, is what I'm saying here. But I'm just going to start the basis as 1,400 rushing yards, 400 receiving yards, 1,800 yards from scrimmage. This is the type of production we're talking about. But the last question I want to ask you, now that we've gone over all this, right? I mean, you got this, Ricky Waters type season where he's got over 400 touches on the year, right? I mean, you're talking incredibly productive, 1,411 rushing yards. He got to 1,400 yards, right? And then he also had 444 receiving yards. So he's got the equation that I just presented to you, 1,400 rushing, 400, receiving, but also 400 freaking touches. I mean, if you only plan on having Saquon for those 2 years, I know he signed a 3-year contract, but it's really 2 years. That's really kind of the basis of that contract. I don't know what the front office is looking at this situation. But, I mean, you would definitely be working this guy like he's DeMarco Murray in the Cowboys system before he arrived in Philly. That'd be kind of like what you're looking at if you're looking at the Ricky Waters approach. If you're looking at the explosive approach, I mean, he's still going to need over 350 touches to do what LeSean McCoy did. Still a lot of touches, guys. LeSean McCoy was traded afterwards, had a couple of really good, solid seasons in Buffalo, but then he also kind of he faded out, if you will. I think the thing that is achievable is the Brian Westbrook approach, is where you're going to get 12 to 1,300 yards on the ground, and then you're going to carry forth there from like 600-700 yards receiving. I think what's difficult about projecting that is over a 500-yard receiving season from a running back is really high. I mean, that is a tremendous figure for running backs. We've seen it happen. We saw his former teammate, Saquon Barkley, to be fair, Miles Sanders' rookie year, have a 500-yard receiving season, but that was also because of the targets around him going down, and Miles Sanders had to, over time, become the central piece of the offense. That's what I'm saying, guys. Circumstance. Like, it's hard to project these things. Tell me the circumstance. Tell me how defenses are playing us. Tell me how the season goes in terms of the health and the standpoint of each of these four cornerstones, of the offense. Like, then that tells me how they're going to do. But I think the real key here is to really look back on 79, 81, 96, 06, 07, and 2013 and ask me, how far did any of those teams get in the playoffs? Because the answer is not really far. I'm not saying they didn't win a game in the playoffs. They didn't make it to the, out of the wild card round and into the divisional round. But none of those teams really were healthy completely offensively, right? They weren't like a fully humming unit, if you will, right? Everything in sync, everything in unison. So I'm not saying that you can't achieve it with an 1,800-yard, back in your system. I'm not saying you can't get to the ultimate, place you're trying to get to and win a Super Bowl. But I am a little skeptical about how well things would fit if we do that. I don't know. I mean, simply put, I don't know how that would turn out, guys. I mean, the history inside of our own, organization has not been great when guys have achieved that in terms of the total team success. So they made the playoffs. They may have even won the division a couple times in that figure that I gave you. But they didn't advance very far in the playoffs, if you will. Hard to say, guys. It is really, really tough to say that. I do think that we'll have to see as the season goes on. But let me know your thoughts. Leave your comments down below telling me what you think. Do you think it's a possibility he can even achieve 1,800 yards? Do you think it's wise of us to give him that many touches to achieve 1,800 yards? And do you think that's healthy for the offense, guys? I mean, those are the questions we're really getting down to. That's the root of the conversation, if you will. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this type of content and you want to see me break down some more stuff, well, here's something YouTube thinks that you would enjoy from my channel, so click on that video there. And if you would like to join the Cerebral Football community, I would love to add you as a member. You just need to click up there. All right, guys. Peace. I'm out of here.